All right, guys. Hey, this is Mr. Miracle. Let's talk about reprints. And there are valuable reprints out there. These are three examples of reprints that are not valuable. These are very not valuable comics. The reprint here, Marvel Milestone Edition, a Fantastic Four #1. Lots and lots and lots of those out there. I've seen people asking $10 on eBay for it. Don't pay $10 for this book. You can find this book in dollar bins or whatever for $1. The Lionsgate film reprint of Amazing Spider-Man #129. That was a movie promotion that came out as a reprint for this book. It's not the first reprint of this book. The first reprint and the most valuable reprint for this book is Marvel Tales 106. I don't have a copy of that reprint, but I'm certainly put it on my list of things to get one day. Astonishing Tales 29 reprints Marvel Superheroes 18, first appearance of the Guardians of the Galaxy and Yondu. Again, I paid about $6 for this. I think people are asking about $25-30 for this one now, just because of the popularity of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I believe this is the only reprint of that issue, so if you can't afford Marvel Superheroes 18, this is your next best bet. So a lot of people are buying that one up because Marvel Superheroes 18 has become quite an expensive book. So these are reprints, like I said, that they aren't very valuable. Don't bank any money on these guys going up in value for sure, but they are fun comics to have in your collection, and you can take them out of the bag, read them. You don't have to worry about damaging the comic anyway, because if the comic gets damaged, they're not that hard to replace or expensive to replace. So let's take a look at some reprints now that don't look like they're reprints. These are obvious reprints. They have the exact same, reprinted cover, in sort of variations from it, so you can tell that it's a reprint. So a not so obvious reprint that I've always really liked is Classic X-Men #1. Okay, so Classic X-Men #1 came out. It looks like, I believe it came out in 1986. So just when the Copper Age was really starting to get heavy print runs going. So there's lots of copies of this out there. It'll never be a super valuable comic in any way, but it's a fun one to have. It reprints Giant Size X-Men #1. I believe it was the first reprint of Giant Size X-Men #1. They've come out with some new reprints lately, milestone editions and whatnot. But this guy, with that classic Art Adams cover, that iconic cover. I mean, I have a t-shirt with that cover on it. I love that drawing. But yeah, it's just reprints. All the classic X-Men are just reprints of X-Men comics. So not super valuable. Will never ever be super valuable. But well worth having and fun to have as well. And be able to read and, display that cover, which is fantastic and great. One set of reprints that don't look like they're reprints is definitely these guys. I find them to be quite undervalued. That's the Human Torch series. The Human Torch series came out in 1974, and I know it looks like it's its own series. I'll spread some out here, show you guys. There was only 8 books in the whole series, and they reprint Strange Tales 101 to 108. Okay, so that's where our 8 reprints come from. The covers are generally meant to kind of be a homage kind of cover to the original cover, but just a little bit redone. Let me just show you that one. I'm going to show you. You got that Fantastic Four, or Human Torch #7, which is a reprint of Strange Tales 107, which is that guy, right? So they tried to kind of pay homage to that original Strange Tales covers, but gave it a new branding, new price, new title for the book and everything like that. Tried to make you think it was a new series, when really it was just a reprinted series. Still quite a bit undervalued in my opinion. Not a lot of people even know that this Human Torch series even exists because it was such a short run of only 8 issues. But yeah, it's a really great series to put into your collection, especially those Strange Tales. The first Strange Tales books are really starting to jump up in price, and if you don't, again, want to risk taking a very valuable comic out and reading it, You can grab up these guys. You can buy low condition copies of these. I wouldn't bother with that. You can get mint condition of this entire set run for under $100. And I know I paid way less than that for these guys, but I love the covers on here, and I love Strange Tales, and I really like the original Strange Tales, which started out with the Human Torch. We all know that Strange Tales 110 was the first appearance of Doctor Strange, and the book kind of took off in his direction after that, but originally it started out with the Human Torch. Now, here's a good reprint that doesn't look like it's a reprint. Crypt of Shadows. The entire series of Crypt of Shadows, there was 21 books in all, but they reprint some really old horror sci-fi books from the 40s. Number one here, it reprints Journey into Mystery number 17. So very way ahead of before Thor ever was a comic book character. It had those classic horror stories from 50s, and they get reprinted here. Now, it's one of those reprinted ones that it's like, really, because they do reprint it, but they Comic Code Authority reprint it, so there's quite a few panels in there that kind of are dulled down for the general public's use. However, I believe this is a bit of an undervalued series in that trying to get Journey into Mystery 17, that's an extremely expensive Golden Age book. If you want to read any of those old books, you got to buy Crypt of Shadows. And then people that bought Crypt of Shadows and read these books were like, oh wow, these great stories from the 40s I never knew about, and became fans of early Golden Age horror books and stuff because of this book. But yeah, definitely you can pick this book up super cheap for a Bronze Age comic number 1, but it is a reprint. So let's take a look at a valuable reprint, a hidden reprint that doesn't look like a reprint. Boom. Detective Comics number 387. Detective Comics number 387 is the first time Detective Comics 27 was ever reprinted. Ever. So if you think about that in terms, if you were born on the same day that Detective Comics 27 came out, you, maybe, when you got into your early teen years and stuff, you started collecting comic books, you would have never, if you were a Batman collector, you would have never gotten a chance to read that origin story for 30 years. I mean, unless you came across the Detective Comics 27 that someone sold you and you read it. But without having that original book, you could not read Batman's origin story. So when this book came out, it's really under the radar because it is part of the Detective Comics series. It's the 30th anniversary issue, which is why I keep saying, you wouldn't be able to read that for 30 years. They didn't reprint this book for 30 years. It just blows my mind because it's such an iconic book. Even back in the 60s, it was such an iconic book, the first appearance of Batman. You probably could have bought Detective Comics 27, back in the day when this thing came out for under $1,000. But man, nobody was paying that kind of money for a comic book back then. So really, if you ever wanted to do this, this is an extremely undervalued comic book. If you look at the Golden Age record reprints of Fantastic Four number 1 going for $1,000 in very nice condition, and then this reprint going for $30 or less in very nice condition, yeah, this is the Golden Records reprint of Detective Comics 27. And very undervalued comic book that you should put into your collection. Because like I said, it is the next time. It is the closest thing you can get to having a Detective Comics 27 in your collection. All right. So another valuable reprint, and this one does look like a reprint. There's no hiding it. Is this guy here. I wanted to show you this because there are variant reprints out there that make them more valuable. This comic book, everybody's like, oh, it's the Safeguard Action Comics one. Negative, it is not the safeguarded one. It is the much more valuable variant edition, which came out for a very low print run beforehand. It is the variant Superman sleeping bag edition of this comic. Okay, so when it has this advertisement on the back, most of them had the Safeguard on there. However, very low print run of them had the Superman sleeping bag on the back. One of the other things that makes this reprint valuable, I don't have it in a bag just for the video, is this cover. This is not a glossy cover. It's not that high quality paper. It is a newsprint cover. One of the reasons comic books come with a glossy cover on it, it's not just so that the colors pop and you want to buy it like a shiny thing on the rack. It's also to protect the interior pages, because newsprint is much less robust than the cover is made out of. So trying to find this particular reprint in a high grade, especially when it's that Superman sleeping bag issue, much more valuable. I should have looked up the value for this guy. I mean, the last time I looked at it, I think it was a couple $100 for this reprint. So in terms of reprint, that's good. And this is a real under the radar one. Most people don't even know about the Superman variant. If you ever see this comic book for sale, open up the bag, take a quick peek in there, see if it's the Superman variant, because yeah, grabbing up this one and having it in your collection, once this one hits everybody on top of the radar, it's probably going to be worth a lot more money. So there are other Action Comic reprints. The first reprint that happened was like a golden edition. It came out Action Comics, and it was an exact copy of Action Comics. Same size, same drawings, everything, but had like a cardboard cover jacket on top of the comic book that said it was a reprint. Most people, there has been lots of incidents that people have taken that cover off and tried to sell it as an original Action Comics #1, which it is not, right? So it's that close of a reprint, and they realized what they had done, and now reprints are generally a different size, variations on the cover, right, telling you that it's a reprint. There'll be characters missing out of different ones, and we'll show you that here. This is another Action Comic reprint. In order so that nobody gets mixed up, right? They put the price on there. They also made this guy disappear, right? There's different shine on the cars and whatnot, just so that people can't pass it off as an original one. Because by the time this book came out in 1986, I don't even remember when that one came out. This one came out in 1976. This one came out in 86. By the time that book came out, this book was printed in mass. It is not valuable in any way. I would never pay more than $10 for a very mint copy of this Action Comics reprint. However, this one, trying to find it is much more difficult. And like I said, they change them up on this stuff. But yeah, there's an Action Comics. It is not valuable. It is, and mainly because of the print run. Right? If you have lots and lots of these books printed, it is tough to have them increase in any kind of value, right? Supply and demand. So that's it for reprints right now. Just want to leave you with a couple of really good ones. Just remember, keep your eyes open for this guy here especially. It's a very valuable reprint. Can add a lot of value for your collection. Watching for that Superman sleeping bag on the back. Yeah, so there are valuable reprints out of there. There are hidden reprints out there. People, and I think there's a lot of reprints that are undervalued. As the price of the original comic books of these things starts skyrocketing, you start seeing Fantastic Four being over $1 million, Detective Comics 27 being sold for a couple $1 million. The next best thing you can get is the reprint. And Detective Comics number 387 is the first reprint of Detective Comics 27. This is not the first reprint of this, however, it is the most rare reprint with that Superman sleeping bag cover on there. So there are valuable reprints out there. Happy hunting. This has been Mr. Miracle. I'll see you guys next time.